Okay. Oops. Share my screen. Nice try, Emily. All right. Think we're ready. Whoa, it must have done an update like since this morning. Anyways, welcome. I'm Emily. I'll be your math guide this term. Hopefully everyone is in wet. Welcome to your first year. You had your orientation last week. That's awesome. I love that they do that. And here we are, ready for math. I'm just going to do introductions today, and by that I mean I introduce you to the course and kind of introduce you to me, I guess. Who am I? Emily. It's just Emily spelled funny. It's not like my parents are super cool or anything. That would be nice, but I was born in Sweden and that's just how you spell it there. So yeah, so many E's. It's crazy, right? Can I buy a vowel? My maiden name was Gustafson, so Lee is a lot easier. Especially, it makes my email so much shorter, which is awesome. Yeah, so email, the usual, Ely at Okanagan, blah, 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 blah. It's all there. But I also like to give out my cell phone. I know, it's crazy. I've been doing it for a long time. Never had any issues. In fact, I prefer it as a method of communication. Now, I know you guys usually have your own group chat, which is cool. But for me, I like to just keep it simple. And so what I find, especially with math, is you're working on a problem, usually on paper, right? You don't want to type that all out. That's terrible, right? And so, but something's gone wrong and you have a question and you're working on it. And so what I find is easiest is if you just say, text me a picture of your work and say, something's not working here. I can look at it, and I can mark it up or do my own thing and send it back. And I just find that it's a lot more efficient. Right? You're welcome to email me, but I'm old, so I have a hang up because emails are so formal. I feel like I have to sit down. It's kind of a medium screen problem. And so I can be a little bit slower on the emails, but they go to the same place. So it's just a mental hang up, I guess. But if you text me, it can be just a little bit quicker. And as long as you've introduced yourself once, tell me your name and what class you're in, then I just save you in my phone as blank math 128. And then I'll know and you don't have to introduce yourself anymore. Right? And I should probably figure out how many students I have just in my phone. I should delete them every term probably, but sometimes people come back. After years, I've had students come back. Hey, I'm in your class again. This thread pops up. So that's myself. However you want to contact me, doesn't matter to me. Like I said, it goes to the same place. And so, but for me, if you text me, I find that it's a little bit quicker. Okay? And that always brings me to, or it always brings up the question, oh, what time do you go to bed? Pretty early, I'm not gonna lie. But my ringer is never on, ever. Like ever, my phone never makes noise. And so don't worry about that, okay? And I'm an adult. I can tell you if I'm busy, right? Hey, I can't get to this right now. I'll get back to you in a couple hours or whatever, right? And so trust that I will let you know if I can't answer right away. And usually what I find is thinking of what your problem is, right? That's a huge step in solving the problem, right? So often I'll wake up in the morning and have these series of text messages, usually on due dates and things like that. Not now at the beginning of the term, but later when it gets busy, right? And so I'll wake up and I'm freaking out. It's due tonight. I don't know how to do it. And then it's a series. Do I do this? Do I do this? And then eventually it just ends with, oh, never mind, I got it. And I love waking up to those, right? Because it's this roller coaster of a ride. And then I don't have to do anything, right? And so usually for me, I find most of the time, right? Like I said, formulating the question to me is a huge help usually, right? And so just keep that in mind. So if you have a question, I want you to just put it out there, right? Send it off, see what happens, keep working at it, right? But kind of trust that that helps, right? All right. Any questions about that? My office, I'm with Frank. So usually I'll start to recognize you guys. And do you have classes with Frank this term? I know you do. Usually you do. And I sit at the front, right? And so I'm kind of the receptionist, I guess. Everyone kind of comes to me and is like, hey, is blah, blah, blah here? I'm like, look in the room. Are they here? No. And so I kind of like it. And so usually you'll come in. Is Frank here? No, he's not here. Never there. He's usually in the lab. But yeah, so hopefully you know where to find Frank. Just down the hall, way down at the end. And that's where I am. Okay. So I don't do office hours, but I'm often on campus in my office. And I say, if I'm in my office, it's my office hours. And so you can just pop by if I'm there. And again, you know, if I'm on the off chance that I'm working on something and I don't have time to help you, I'll say, hey, can you come back in, 20 minutes or whatever, right? Whatever is reasonable. And so just pop by, see if I'm there. I love it because you guys are usually hanging out in this neck of the woods anyways. When I have business people, they're always in the E building and they never want to come over here. So then they text me saying, hey, are you around? So I don't have to go all the way to the C building. I know. But so I do office hours by appointment. Now that sounds very formal, right? It's not. By that, I mean, see if I'm around. And if I'm around, come on by, right? And so it doesn't have to be an appointment per se, but just let me know when you want to meet and I'll be here. Okay? So like I said here, I'm usually available on short notice. So you can text or email me to set up an appointment. It sounds more formal than how I mean it to be. Okay? All that in a top block of our Moodle page. Wow. We've got a couple of tests. I know, don't talk about that today. Well, we have to. I picked some dates. Now, the first test ended up being the Tuesday right after Thanksgiving. I know. So I will say this, as a group, you can come to me and you can say that doesn't really work for us, right? And so I'm flexible. Right? We can just keep going with new material that's not on the test. We can bump it later, right? And so so if you're swamped with other tests, let me know, right? I'm likely the most flexible in kind of test dates and things like that. And so if you're finding that, oh, hey, these dates, right, I picked them, but I'm not married to these dates, right? They can kind of move around and adjust, but I think it's nice to have a jumping off point. And then you can come tell me, hey, this doesn't work. Okay. And so, do you know your test dates for your other classes already? Maybe not yet, right? Haha, so I'm first. But like I said, I'm probably one of the more flexible classes for test dates. Okay, so if you have a pile up of tests, let me know and we'll fix it. Okay, because I don't want that. And now, oh, the final exam, I don't know when it is. We usually find out middle of the term-ish, but I love it because the last day of final exams is December 18th this term, which is super early. Awesome. So guaranteed done by December 18th. So nice. Aha. There it is. Announcement staring me in the face. I meant to send out, well, last term, I called it a test announcement, but then everyone freaked out because they thought there was a test on the first day. No, I meant like, hey, here's an announcement. Did you get it? And so I'll send something out after class. Just make sure that you get it, because that's how I'll reach you if I need to. Usually what happens, especially with wet, is someone gets the announcement and then they put it out to the group, right? Are you guys using, what tool are you guys using? Discord? Discord? Nice. Discord. Yeah. I have it. I just am very good at not being active on there. There's a math stats Discord as well. But I'll post the link to, I hid it. I thought you guys were using Teams, but Discord's cooler, I guess. So good job. All right. As you saw earlier, I got this ringing in my ear. Yikes. I do post my lectures in Zoom. Okay. And so here it is. It's recording. And so after class, I'll post this recording. Okay. Now, the reason I do that is because now everything's nice and weather's good and you're able to get to class and you're here and everything's working out, right? But later in the term, traffic or weather or life, right? There are so many different reasons why you can't make it to class, right? But I still want you to be able to have the experience. Now, I will warn you, it's very boring because it's just my screen and my voice. So, and just, it does a pretty good job of eliminating other voices. So it knows like my voice here. And so if you have a question, then I'll kind of try to repeat it for the recording. But there is a chance that if you speak in class, it'll be in the recording. So just be aware. Now, with the Zoom, and I usually hide the Zoom link, but I'll post it in a bit here. You can join class on Zoom, right, during our lecture. Again, a very passive experience, right? But if you're not feeling 100% or, your dog is sick or whatever, right, you're all adults, you have adult problems now. And so, right, I'm just trying to cater to that, okay? And so then you can join on Zoom. Now, again, like I said, a very passive experience because I cannot see the chat, okay? And because when I'm sharing my screen, for some reason, it doesn't show it. And so I can't see the chat. I definitely can't see your face, so no video needed. And in fact, I would say don't, because I don't know how it would do with the recording. So again, it's just my screen, my voice, very boring, probably. But I don't think I've ever watched a whole lecture of mine. I'll watch the beginning just to make sure that I'm not on mute, which always happens. I've been lucky so far, but I know it's coming for me. I'll do a lecture on mute. That's okay. Like I said, it's just something that I'm providing and trying to be nice. Now, obviously, our playlist is empty, but here's a link to last year's playlist. We'll be doing basically the same stuff. So if you wanted to get crazy, you could watch the old playlist, I guess. Ours, once we have a video, right, I'll link it to our playlist, right, but I just wanted you to see what it looks like. Okay? And so after every class, it does take some time, so it's not immediate because I have to wait for it to do something. I download it and then I put it on YouTube, and so it takes a little bit of time, but not too much time. Okay? And so you'll have that once we have a video. I will go through the course outline, but as you can probably tell, a lot of what we're saying is on our Moodle page, and it's also in our course outline. So we'll go through our Moodle page first. I think that's the most important thing to get to know it. Yeah. So I'll parking lot the course outline. I post my schedule. I know, isn't it so beautiful? Except for these 6 to 8 classes. Oh, I know. But I'm so thrilled because usually this class is at 8 a.m. and now we're at 10, and that feels like such a luxury. Although finding parking is easier at 8. So, do you guys have a class at 8? Oh, so it's just me. I see. You're the ones taking all the parking spots. That's fair. I should just get here earlier. So, this is just so you know kind of when I'm available, when I'm not available. So I have Fridays off. I will likely be off campus. I want to try to get parking when I don't have to. And so, but if I'm around, I can still come into campus. Okay? So that's fine. And just a heads up, I use the same Zoom room for all my classes. So if you hop in there and something else like stats or maybe math for arts might be going on, might be fun, but confusing. All right. So I just post that so you have it. It's also posted outside my office door. Any questions? We're using an open source textbook. It's a textbook by David Lipman is one of the authors, and Melanie Rasmussen, I think. But David Lipman is kind of a math rock star, math teaching rock star. He developed My Open Math, which we use a version of. We have our own server, so we called it My Okanagan Math, so we can still call it MOM. And that's where you'll be doing all your assignments. And so I really enjoy David Lipman's stuff. And if I ever get to meet him, wow, starstruck. I know one day you'll feel that way about some textbook author, maybe. There's a couple. There's a stats one that I really enjoy too. So you can download the textbook, right? We'll be working through it just in order. nothing crazy. And so just 1 through 5 for sure. And tale as old as time, chapter 6, time permitting. I have never made it there. So if this is the term, that's cool, but no, but we can always dream. So, did Kate come talk to you from the Success Center yet? With the orientation? Usually she holds off a couple of weeks, but so Kate Sidlar is in the Success Center. Maybe they talked about the Success Center. They're in the library and they do free tutoring. Well, they're getting paid, so you don't have to feel bad, is what I mean. And so, but they're available kind of 8 to 4 or something like that. I should check the times, but I posted the link to the Success Center. Okay. And so you can book an online appointment. Okay. But usually for math, especially, in person is better. And so I would probably recommend that. But if you're stuck, then you can always try it online. And let's see here, math science in Kelowna. We have Josh and we have Kate. Josh does more upper level math stuff, math, physics, but Kate does our math. I'll add her to our Moodle page, so she'll be up to speed on what we're working on. And I don't expect her to actually look at it, but she'll have access if she needs it. And so Kate is just incredible. So she does math, stats, physics, chemistry, biology. It's crazy. But yeah, so I'll ask Kate to come visit us and just introduce herself probably next week or the following week. Yeah. And so, but if you haven't been in the library, you go into the library, you get distracted by the shelf that they have set up of kind of whatever books they're introducing or whatever. And so don't pay any mind, keep going. And then there's kind of a glassed in area here, and that's where she is. So there's tables in there, and you can go in there. There's writing help. So not just math and sciences, but writing as well, right? Proofreading, all that kind of fun stuff. And so there's tables set up. So the idea is that you go and you work on your homework, maybe as a group, and then as you need help, you can flag Kate down. Right? So really, really nice resource to have. Of course, you can come to me, right? But I know that's intimidating. Sometimes that's intimidating. I told you all this stuff, and then, but you feel like that didn't really work for you. Sometimes I can try to reframe it, right? But sometimes it's nice to go and have Kate explain it, maybe in a different way, right? And so, either or, it's good. Okay. Now, I always post this TED Talk on grit. You guys watched it? Maybe? No, probably not. It's by Angela Duckworth, but the sound never hooks up and it's always just kind of a disaster. So I'll let you watch it on your own to get inspired for just learning math. And so what's tricky about teaching this course is everyone comes from very different math backgrounds. And so for math especially, right, some of you might have done math very recently, right, and feel very comfortable with math. Awesome, right? Some of you, it might have been a while, or you just don't like math, you just got to get through it. That's okay, right? We will be kind of starting from the bottom. And so if you're comfortable with math, sit back, relax, right? Enjoy the ride, right? And so, but if you have taken a pre-calculus course in the past, then you can maybe talk to Sydney or Allison about using that as your credit instead. Usually that's dealt with, but if you feel like, pre-calculus, but I've taken calculus, then maybe you don't need to take this course. Right? Take some time off. Okay? Just as a heads up. But it's nice to have the same experience as everyone else. Okay. Usually I have a list of things to talk about, but I didn't bring it, so blind. That's okay. I'll let Moodle be my guide. It is all we're doing today, so. What I've done for each of the sections that we're doing, okay, is posted these notes, and we'll kind of be filling them in. They are just grabs from the textbook, right? But I've gone through the textbook and just picked out the things that I want to talk about, right? That I want to emphasize. Problem with the textbooks is sometimes they go into a lot of detail on stuff that we don't really need, right? And so kind of cut that out. And so this is how we'll do our notes, right? And just kind of work through these notes as we go through the sections. Okay. They're not perfect in terms of spacing, but they're okay. Right. Sometimes I have to move stuff around. Okay. So I posted those as well as just the chapter examples. So if you, I don't want to download you. Okay. These are the same examples that I've grabbed and brought into the notes. The notes have eliminated some writing, got a thumb thing. And so my writing was always bad, so I'll own that. But now it's really bad. So I try to not write too much. So that's why I started just grabbing stuff from the textbook. Saved me some writing. Okay. But there are these just, I guess they're PowerPoints, which is kind of weird, of just the examples. Right? So came with the textbook, so I thought I'd share them. Okay. But so for each section that we're going through, posted the notes. And as we work through the sections, I'll fill them in and I'll post them after class. Okay? Reasonably, that's how many sections we're covering this term, right? It's as far as I've ever gotten. Okay? And in terms of assignments, there is an assignment for each section. There's a number of assignments. They're not terribly long, right? But just to keep you on track. Okay? Of course, those assignment questions will prepare you for the test and the final exam. And so they're good for you. I'm just going to do it on the screen. Yeah, so don't worry about it. Yeah, it depends on your note-taking preference, right? And so, like I said, I don't have the spacing quite figured out. Sometimes I have lots to say, and sometimes I blank on why I left so much space, right? And so, but in general, right, these are what I'll be filling in as we go. But like I said, I'll post it, what I write after class. So And of course, the reason I do that is because sometimes I find that, where I found when I was in school, right, that I would spend so much time trying to write down the notes, I couldn't hear anything. And so then I'm trying to go through my notes again, and I can't remember what was going on, right? And so I want you to just kind of feel safe knowing that, okay, well, the notes will be there and I can kind of fill them in, right? But being able to listen and just kind of being here, right, is good, and often more useful than getting the notes down exactly, right? All right. Like I said, because I'm a fan of David Lippman, I trust that the videos that he's picked are good. I have not looked at. I've probably watched the first one. That'd be weird if I hadn't, but I don't remember it. But because it's available, right? He has posted videos for each of the chapters. I just push that to you, right? The age-old problem of too many resources sometimes, right? Just give you so many things, right? But I would say if you had to pick, right, focus on the lecture notes. I'm never going to test you on something that we didn't introduce in class, right? And so assignment questions, right? They might require a little bit more thought. You've got time. You can talk to your friends and just come talk to me, right? So assignment questions, they're meant to be a little bit harder, right? Test questions, no, just things we've talked about in class, things I know that you should be able to handle in a test situation. Okay? And let's see if I can. Oh yeah. I thought it was funny because our class actually does start at 10. And so we're already behind schedule, which is how I always feel coming into a class. Welcome. We're behind. No, we're not. We're not. Don't worry. Oops. Okay, there. So week 1, you had your orientation. We didn't have a class, but for each of the following weeks, I like to kind of outline roughly what we'll be covering, right? How much pre-reading you'll need to do. Each section has an assignment, so just kind of as a guide of how many assignments there will be. Okay. What's fun about Mom, as I introduced, the platform that we use for our homework, is I can give you late passes. Okay? So because we have so many late passes, I'll give you 15 of them. Okay? Now, what a late pass does is, as long as you go into the assignment and you apply a late pass, right, before the due date, okay, then it extends it automatically by 24 hours. Okay? So if you need a little bit more time and you know that, right, throw a late pass on there, and you don't have to contact me or anything like that. It just does it, right? And then you have 24 more hours. You can put multiple late passes on, but I wouldn't encourage it because there are so many assignments, they're not worth very much each, right? And so probably just try your best and move on, right? Once the assignment has closed, okay, then you'll be able to go back in and just do it for practice. Okay, so it doesn't change your mark after that. Okay? So you'll still be able to go in and rework some of those problems if you didn't get a chance to do them. Okay? Why on earth would I do that, Emily? Oh, I don't know. Study for tests, probably. So today, introductions, an introduction to the course, to me, sort of, I guess. I didn't really introduce myself besides my name. Huh. I did my undergrad in math, and I did my master's in stats. So, and I would say statistics is my jam, but I've done this course quite a bit now, and I really, really enjoy working with the cohort. And the wet cohort is the best. So I get the best one, which is awesome. And then I kind of gave up doing it by day because timing gets weird. But each week I've listed kind of roughly where I expect us to be. And so I never finish 1.1. When you look at the notes, you're gonna be like, how could you not finish 1.1? Well, I got a lot to say about functions. So next week, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Right? And in terms of pre-reading, right, this gives you a good idea of how far you should be pre-reading each week. I don't assume that you've done any pre-reading, but I encourage you to. Only because even if you read through a section on your own before class and it makes no sense, that's okay, right? Because then when you come to class and I say it for the second time, then maybe that'll fill in some gaps, right? And so I encourage you to try to do some pre-reading, right? Even if it makes no sense. I can't read this. This is crazy. Just work through it. And obviously, if I say it and it's the second time you're hearing it, right, that's a lot better, right? Than if you come in here and it's the first time you're hearing it, like coming out of nowhere, right? It would be ideal if when I said it, it was the third time you were hearing it, but I just can't figure out how to make that happen. So I guess you could read it, watch the videos from last year, and then come to class, but that's too much. That's crazy. No. But try to do the pre-reading. You're all amped up for the beginning of the term anyway, so you can do it. And so we've got a couple of holiday Tuesdays, right? So no classes on September 30th and no classes on November 11th. Right? And so we lose a couple of days. Don't worry, I've made it work. So, like I said, test one, I've got it slated for October 14th. But warning, right? Thanksgiving's right before that. I don't know. Can think about it and let me know. Again, no classes, all pretty basic stuff until the very end. Like I said, usually I only get to 5.3. This might be the term, but with all those holiday Tuesdays, I just don't see it happening, but wishful thinking. We'll see. Oh yeah, and test 2 is on November 20th. Okay? So test 1 will be on chapters 1 and 2. Okay? And test 2 will be on chapters 3 and 4. But the final exam will be cumulative, chapters 1 through 5. Right? But what's really, really nice is you'll have seen chapters 1 through 4 on a test before. Right? So it's just a condensed version of those two with a little bit of new stuff. Chapter 5, and then you're out of here. Right? It's nice. I know, December feels like a ways off for me too. Any questions before we do the course outline? Just a lot more of the same stuff. Okay. Oh, let's see here. I want to open this. We'll just change that logo. It was different this morning. Crazy. Sure, accept whatever. Maybe later. Okay. This is where I usually write my notes. And in here I have a pointer. I always feel so held back when I'm in the browser because I don't have a pointer. Here. A lot more of the same material though. My name, my office, my email, blah, blah, blah. You made it here. That's cool. And there's a link to the textbook if you want it. I think I posted it. Well, I know I posted it on Moodle as well. Same sections as we have on our Moodle page, a lot more of the same, right? And so we'll talk about functions, move into linear functions, and then we'll talk about polynomial and rational functions, right? Just kind of all these functions, and then exponents and logs, which are very important, especially for Allison's courses later on. And so, and then we do a little bit of trig. And Frank always asks me, hey, are you doing any trig? And I say, yeah, but it's at the very end of the course. So I need SOHCAHTOA before then. I'll just do it myself. So I say, all right. But usually SOHCAHTOA kind of rings a bell anyway. So usually you guys are good. All right. So the learning outcomes probably won't make any sense now. That's okay, right? Hopefully they'll make sense when you're studying for the final exam, right? So here's a list of things that I need you to be able to show on the final exam that you know how to do. And so we'll revisit the learning outcomes closer to the final exam as we're reviewing for it, right? Talk about what does a question like that look like, that kind of thing. And basic course breakdown, got assignments, and because there's so many of them, they are worth 20%, right? But with some work, right, that's 20% that you should have in the bag, right? There's no reason to not have close to 100% on the assignments. I know that doesn't really happen, but close, right? And so staying on top of things, right? It's my way of forcing you to practice for the tests, right? And we'll do 2 tests, like I said. And so 20% each, and then the final exam, 40%. And so pretty standard course breakdown. There's no lab, right? No lab component. And so just, this is it. Which is nice. Now, these are all auto-generated. And the only one that I want to highlight here, because we're doing online assignments and you've got late passes, and so handing stuff in late isn't really a thing, right? It'll close. You won't have access to it. And so if you wake up in the morning and, that assignment closed and I was going to do a late pass, as long as you do it kind of quickly, you can send me an email or text me, right? You're like, I forgot to apply a late pass. I can go in and I can do it for you. Okay. Don't let it be a habit, but I can do that for you. I won't do it if like 2 days have passed. Because once it closes, you'll be able to see the answers, and that's just not fair to the rest of the group. Okay? But like I said, if you wake up and you're not, it's okay. You can let me know. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. One thing, this was not the one I meant to do. It says the math department does not give makeup exams. Neither do I. So that's one of the things that I stick with. Okay. But the only reason I'm okay with doing that is because for one of these two tests, right, your lower test, I'll shift the weight of it to the final exam if your final exam is better, right? So assuming your final exam is better, I'll pretend you didn't show up and shift that 20% to your final exam. Okay? And so for me, I care about you. I don't care why you're not coming to write a test, right? You're feeling sick or you just don't feel prepared or whatever. You don't have to let me know, right? Just feel safe in knowing that I'll shift the weight of one of your tests to the final exam, assuming it's better. Now, my goal with doing that is not so that you'll skip tests because you don't feel prepared. In fact, I encourage you to come in and write the test, especially if you don't feel prepared, right? Because coming in and being all stressed out in the hallway and sitting down and opening your test, that's different, right? Than just kind of flipping through the test on your own time later, right? Having that experience of reading the questions in a test scenario, right? That's really, really valuable. Okay. But I also don't want you to feel like, oh, I'm going to drag my grade down, right? And so I want you to come in, try it. It's okay. You're not prepared. It's okay. It happens, right? My goal is for you to improve throughout the course, right? And so as long as you're able to improve and do better on the final exam, I'm happy, right? That's the goal, right? Not to be perfect immediately, right? But as long as you're improving, that's what more can I ask for, right? I only do it for one of the tests, but because I don't, yeah, both would be crazy. 80% final exam, no. But I will do that, okay? And I'll only do that, I'll only be able to do that once you've written the final exam, of course, right? And so, but my goal here is to take a little bit of pressure off of each individual test, right? And just try your best, show up, even if you're not feeling quite prepared, right? But if you are unable to make it for any reason, right, that'll be your lowest test, and that's the weight that'll get shifted. Okay? And so, like I said, I don't need to know if you're not coming. I'll give you a blank test afterwards, right, so you can practice still. But I post the solutions and all that kind of fun stuff, so you'll be able to use it for practice still. But like I said, coming in and, well, reading the questions, right, in a test scenario, ooh, it's different, right? So it's good to have seen it once, because then all those questions come back to haunt you on the final exam, or most of them, right? Okay, so for math, and I don't know, probably for some of your other courses as well, it's pretty common, but you have to get at least 45% on the final exam to be able to pass the course, right? Show me that you're carrying at least 45% of the material out of here, then I can pass you, assuming everything else, adds up to a pass, right? And so I always like to bring up, I think it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting thought experiment, because if I say, oh, you have to pass the final to pass the course, I think everyone's like, well, that seems pretty reasonable, right? Including myself. I was always thinking, yeah, okay, that sounds reasonable. And then when I started teaching here and they told me about the 45%, so I was teaching mostly at UBCO when I started, but because I only had my master's, I couldn't get full-time continuing whatever. And so, but here I can, so I moved down here, new rules and everything. And when they told me about the 45%, that is crazy. But I had been doing, you have to pass the final to pass the course, which is harsher. I don't know. I can't explain it. Okay. But just be aware, I'm only highlighting it so that I can look back at these notes and say, oh yeah, I did talk about that. Good. Not something to worry about, but something to be aware of. Okay. You'll need a calculator. I have an old version of the one they are selling now, but any calculator will do. Okay. I like the Casios for this course especially. And does anyone have that one with the green? It's I think it has gray buttons and some green instead of blues. Yeah, that one. I think that's the newer version of this one. Yeah. And so show your calculators. Yeah, I think you guys all have them. Nice. And so, yeah. So I have the old version. I know. Mine has blue and white buttons. Yours is fancier, but they're the same. Okay. And specifically, what I love, most calculators have it, but it's nice if we all have kind of similar buttons, right? Is the store and recall. Okay, so there's an STO button and a recall. And so if you have a repeating number or you just want to keep all your decimal places, you can store it, right? So we'll talk about that as it comes up, which will be pretty quickly. But something worth looking into, because I use that a ton. Okay? Just so I can carry all my decimal places and things like that. Okay? I will give you a formula sheet. Okay? So you'll have it. There's not a lot of formulas on it for chapter 1. And so, but I'll give them to you as you need them. Okay. And of course, the final exam is cumulative. Oh. Nice. Important dates we've already talked about. We've just rolled through a lot of these dates already. September 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Last day to register usually doesn't apply to you guys. September 30th, October 13th. Now this one, probably the most boring one, but also strategically the most important. Okay? And so October 24th is the last day to withdraw with a W. Okay? And the reason I point that out is because a W does not count towards your GPA. So by October 24th, you usually have a pretty good idea, can I pull this off or no? And this goes for all your courses, right? Or is this kind of heading one direction only, right? And so then I would say, take the hit and withdraw, right? If you're just so certain you're not going to pass this course, right? Any course, then you're better off withdrawing, right? Trying again, right? Instead of having a fail on your transcript and having that count towards your GPA. So that's a good one to keep track of. And then we get a little bonus time off. November 10th, November 11th. Not quite a fall reading break, but close. So I know. Do you know if the student union is pushing for a fall reading break? Somehow the UBCO student union got them to add a reading break in the fall term. So we get a reading break, a week off in the second term, but they somehow got it through in term one as well. Wow. But we get a lot of holidays in term one. So I guess we should be happy with that. And last day of class is December 5th, and then final exams up until the 18th. Wow. When you put it like that, crazy. Right? Okay. In the orientation week, they do a really good job of just going through policies and things like that. The final exam policy, so if you can't write a final exam in the scheduled time, then we can deal with that as it comes. Okay, but usually that's not really a problem. I know they've harped on academic integrity. I know they have. So what I'll say is, don't cheat, be nice to each other, and be nice to me. That's my summary there. Some other resources. There's lots of resources available to you. But we've got the access services. I don't think it's called disability access anymore, but so if you feel like you benefit from extra time in exams or a distraction reduced space or things like that, they would be the ones to talk to. Gets approved by them. I have nothing to do with it. They send me a letter saying, hey, this student gets this. I say, okay, great. And I don't know if a lot of people are aware of the counseling services that we have available on campus, but it's nice to have the link there. So you can check that out. Just like that. It's the end of my course outline. Any questions? Comments? Concerns? No. All right. Like I said, I don't have my cheat sheet. So I guess that's all I have for today. With that, I release you. And I'll see you on Thursday. Thank you.
Is there anything we should do for Thursday's class?
Try pre-reading 1.1. That might be good. That's a good start. Because we'll just do 1.1 on Thursday, and then the kind of keep heading into chapter 1 next week.